Right. So in the very beginning, I would like to address one or two questions to each of you. Well, those questions will be related to the contents of your presentations. And in the end, after you answer your questions, I would like to ask some general education related questions to all of you, just to share your opinion, if it's fine. Right? Okay, so let's start with Carolina. And we gathered some questions for you, right? I sorted it out. And the first question was, what do you think of using many different platforms in teaching, studying languages, and etc.? Or in other words, should we have a limit of online resources, right?
Okay.
What do you think?
Maybe let me start with saying that I'm old-fashioned. The beginning of my career dates back to the times when we had no emails even. So I was kind of, the way I started teaching was completely offline, okay? And I am slowly learning to use all those applications and all those online resources that are available. But first of all, I am cautious. And however, I cannot say that they are wrong or bad or they do any harm if done in moderation. So I think moderation is the answer to everything, the way I see life, basically, that everything done, moderately will be good. However, I don't use that many of those as a teacher. That's one thing. Another thing that if you know that a certain online application or a tool is really useful, then don't hesitate to use it. But at some point, I noticed a kind of, I would say, concerning trend, which was, it's something that I talked about during my presentation, teachers trying to wow students. I'm so much in favor of unwowing the educational process. Okay, my job, I'm not an entertainer, and the lesson is not an educational roller coaster, is not switching from one app to another. If you really feel that behind the app you're using, there is really some educational content, and that the skills and the language system of your students actually develop, then by all means, go for it. But always ask yourselves this question: is it really educational? Is there a kind of is there a linguistic benefit? Because this is absolutely the most important thing: linguistic benefit, learning benefit, or if it's just for entertainment. If it's for entertainment, then, well, maybe it's not worth it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for sharing your opinion. One of the teachers also says that she thinks assessment of students is the most difficult part of teaching. And she asks, how do you organize it, and what's the best way of doing it?
What do you know? Do you have any idea if we're talking about online assessment or regular assessment?
Well, she didn't specify, so I'm not really sure.
Okay, let me start with assessment in general. Well, I believe that assessment has one very important goal. It makes students revise. Let's face it, the majority of students do not really sit down at home in the free time to revise the material from the lessons. If, however, things are completely different when the test appears, right? However, this can be done. It doesn't mean that I have to give them a test. Any other kind of assessment will be fine for that, okay? Any form of assessment that helps students revise will be okay. My tests, also, that's another way I look at assessment. My tests are not there to prove students how little they know, but how much they have mastered. So I don't mind giving my students tests to write at home. I don't mind them writing them together in pairs or in groups because they learn from one another. I'm basically a huge fan of formative assessment. Formative assessment is just that, kind of going away from regular testing and quizzing students to introducing any other forms of assessment or evaluation that actually provides you with the information of how students progress, how they move on, how well they are doing. And mind you, this is how well and not how badly they're doing. So actually, there's another big session that I have on formative assessment online. So I should probably stop here because I'm gonna.
You're going to spoil your
another hour, and I could talk about it for another hour, really.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I also found a very interesting question about keeping the cameras on during the distance video lessons. And do you know the way how to encourage students to keep their cameras on during the lessons, online lessons?
That's the thing. You know, on the one hand, the way I see it, this should be done systemically. That is, it should be a clear. There should be a clear, I don't know, guideline from the school board, from the school authorities. So we either oblige students to keep. This is like this is like a lesson, really. I'll tell you what my parents do. My parents, who are teachers, they explain it at the very beginning, saying, guys, if I don't see you, that means you're absent. So, and kind of students follow, and they do keep their cameras on. Another thing, and that's extremely important, one of the teachers that I work with has recently said that she has noticed that those students who have their cameras on do better at different tasks simply. Why? Because if you guys see me right now, I'm focused and I'm looking at you and I'm listening to what the speakers are saying. If you allow me to turn off my camera, I was like, honestly, I was waiting for Christina to finish. I was offline. I was like, my camera was off. So I was like kind of still, looking at my phone, looking through my mails. And that's basically what everybody does when the teacher and the rest of the class sees you. So I would strongly encourage that, even making it a part of, like our online rules, really. So like, I don't see you. Unfortunately, that means you're not in my lesson. Being in my lesson means, or if students don't want to be online all the time, you have to tell them, okay, now this is the moment when you can turn the cameras off. But you can also signal to everyone, guys, now please turn the cameras on. But this is, I would say, this is to make it work. This is one of the things you have to say as a rule at the beginning of a course.
Okay, thank you for a very informative answer, right? To be honest, I have more questions, but I think I will collect all of them and send it back to you,
okay,
right? So that you could answer them, and then I will share it with a newsletter, which we are going to send after the conference. Well, around one or 2 weeks after the conference. Okay. Thank you very much. Now I have a few questions for Fiona as well. Okay. And one of them is, well, how do you balance engaging musical, visual, etc. activities with curriculum requirements, more serious tasks? Do you have any more ideas for creative, engaging ways for students to reflect at the end of the class?
So that was quite a long question there.
Okay, maybe let's start with the first part of the question.
Yeah, let's go.
How to balance engaging activities with more serious tasks?
I think that's what we do anyway, isn't it, when we plan our classes? Any lesson or any plan of a lesson is going to have different periods of different energy. It's like when you're planning for small children. If you're like me, if you're planning for 6-year-olds, I always have like literally three physical levels in my class. So we have some time on the floor, some time at tables, sometimes standing up. If I'm planning for primary, I'm planning heads down activities, heads up activities. I think, it's really just part of planning. It's just that when I'm doing the the generating the language, then that would be the way I do it. But then we still have the quiet heads down, let's write sentences with the words that we've just generated, or let's work out collocations, or if it's verbs or stuff, how do they work? If it's adjectives, how do they work? But to be honest, yeah, it's just part of planning, I think. That's just part of our toolbox as teachers, and or toolbox, or you know, the ingredients in our cupboard, in our teacher's cupboard for making whatever you wouldn't have a whole lesson on yee, let's play, you know, let's listen to music. And no, you'd have that as, I mean, that listening to music and taking notes, that's a good half hour, but there's still the other half an hour or the other 20 minutes or whatever you've got where you're actually working with the language and putting it together and then editing it or whatever, or you know, once they've handed in the compositions, if they do writing or sentences, whatever, then you've got the, you know, the feedback stage where you look and you say, okay, are they using these adjectives correctly, or are the verbs going in the correct tense? So yeah, it's just part of planning.
Yeah, so there isn't a one specific strategy of doing that.
Not really,
right?
no.
Yeah.
No, because
Okay.
for example, the memory game there, the one from Gateway,
Yeah.
with a picture in black and white, that is essentially a grammar practice anyway. That's from memory, it's the past continuous. You could have it the present continuous, but it's what was happening. And you know, a boy was riding a bicycle, a boy was carrying a loaf of bread, a child was eating an ice cream. So, you know, you would have that, and then you're looking at the grammar or checking the grammar. The smells to description writing, you're generating language. It's just another way of presenting language rather than saying, okay, imagine you're at a swimming pool. What can you know? Here's a picture of a swimming pool. What can you see? Brainstorm, guys. It's doing a similar thing to things that we already do, but putting another spin on it. Because if I always use flashcards, I always use pictures, I'm not benefiting some of the people in the room. So sometimes I've got to use other techniques. So, you know, last week we did a picture. Okay, so this week we're doing music, and next week we'll imagine smells. You know, but then, you know, what comes after that is what you would normally do in your vocabulary lesson, or, you know, so yeah, it's variety, spice of life and all that.
I understand. Okay, thank you, Fiona. So another part of the question was about reflecting at the end of the class, since teachers were very curious about it. So would you know any good or more ideas for creative, engaging ways of reflecting at the end of the class?
I'm not quite sure if you mean reflecting on the lesson or reviewing the language in the sense, because reflecting on the lesson, you're going to have probably fairly standard practice anyway, you know, whether it's some kind of journaling or your students are going to write down the thing that they most remembered for the day, or the thing that they could use, you know, if their life was in English, we say, then which of today's words would they use most frequently, which do they think would be least frequent? Sometimes that kind of processing. It's like if I give you a big list of words and I say to you, which of these words do you think is going to be the most difficult to learn? But as you're processing that, it actually flips and it becomes the one that you learn, because you've been thinking, what is it? Oh yeah, that one's going to be hard. I'm never going to remember that word because it's difficult to spell or whatever. And that becomes because you've done that processing, it becomes the most, or the easiest, or one of the easier ones to learn. But I think that's what I would do in any lesson, if you see what I mean. It's just, rather than having a set list of vocabulary from a course book, which would probably be literally a physical list, then reflecting would be kind of getting away from the physicality of it, the look of it, and saying which one's the hardest for you to pronounce, or which one do you think you would use the most? Or they're moving into the spoken realms, shall we say? You know, which one would you, if you were speaking to your best friend in English, which were these words would you use? Which would you, that kind of thing. So that's a review and a reflection at the same time.
Okay.
But I think reflection for me, you do more reflecting on the actual class than on the language. So I'd be reflecting perhaps at the end of a week or at an end of a month, saying, okay, we did a smell thing, we did a music, we did a Which do you find helped you learn the best? Which do you remember the best? Let's check, write down some words that you remember from each lesson. And actually, as a teacher, if I see that, I also then kind of get a vision of my class and which techniques work best. Like I found my classes in Spain, particularly the music one, never failed. I kind of started using that some years ago after driving a very long distance one day, listening to music and realizing I was getting images in my head and thinking, oh, hang on a minute. And I've been doing that for about 10 years now, and literally it never fails. There's about 2% of people don't get images from music. But that's why it's important you put them in pairs to compare ideas, because then they sort of pick up on their friends' ideas and start going, oh yeah, and then maybe this and maybe that. But yeah, I would say there's the two kinds of reflecting. There's the reflecting that would review the language, and the reflecting that would give teacher information on which techniques work best. I don't know if that actually answered the question or not. I hope so.
Well, I'm pretty sure that you did in a way, right? Because I totally agree that it depends on the students and the needs, right? The types and techniques of reflecting. So, yeah.
Yeah, and on your own classroom practice, and do you do the can-do statement kind of stuff, or do you do the, let's think what I found most effective, slightly more introspective kind of reflection?
Okay, thank you. That was a beautiful answer, if I may say that, right? I have some questions, actually 2 questions for Christina. And one of the teachers says that she's a huge fan of quotations. However, she was criticized for using this method as such. Could you tell our attendees your opinion? Why is it good to use and why not?
Well, I always listen to my heart. When I have some kind of consideration whether to do this or not, I always listen to my heart. If I find it useful in my classroom, if I find it useful with my students, if I see that it works in my life, so why not to do that? Why not to continue doing that? So people can criticize me, and if my students don't shout and scream and anything happens, so that is okay. So they love quotes. They get a lot of inspiration from them. So yes, it might be some kind of opinion, but it's not a fact. This is what I believe in.
Okay, thank you. And during your presentation, you also talked a lot about your students, right? And what they do during the classes. So could you tell us, how do your own students react to learning during the pandemic?
Well, now I work in a different school, in a new school, and it was a very difficult beginning, I would say, because I had only 2 weeks to meet my students in reality in the classroom, and then we had to start some kind of isolation process or something, so social distancing. I suppose that it's quite difficult for the students and for the teachers nowadays. We have to find different techniques, different approaches, how to make that educational process more attractive, which is more difficult to do while teaching online. It's quite difficult, I would say. So we, as educators, as teachers, we have to think of the best ways. Think of the best ways how to motivate them, how to inspire them, how not to put that much effort and overload them with knowledge, facts, and rules and anything. So we have to remember that we are all human beings, and yes, so it's difficult. It's difficult, it's challenging, but let's hope that we will learn a lot from this. and we will become stronger, and we will stay healthy and safe, and we will meet someday our students. I'm not sure when, so it's hard to predict, right? So, but it's a difficult period, I suppose.
We have to be patient, right?
Pardon?
We have to be patient.
Yes, we have to be patient, and we will see the results later on. Well, they might not be so satisfying, but we have to be patient, and we have to make our students think that they can do, they can learn at home. They are strong enough not to give up. This is my idea.
Okay, thank you for sharing your opinion, right? And I have the same question for all of you, right? So you can answer it one by one. Or we can start by Carolina, right? And then move to Fiona and Christina the same way we did it before, right? So what changes can you see in teachers in the future? And how will the pandemic have affected teaching after it passes?
What effect will the pandemic have on teachers? Yes.
Yeah, after it passes.
I would say they will become more open-minded. Definitely. I don't need to look far. I'm a good example. Last year, if somebody told me, would you do an online course? I would say, not in a million years. Now kind of things have changed, and kind of something that a few months ago, I considered completely undoable for me. Now I can do with a good deal of success. So I think that it will make them more open-minded to novelties, to changes. Somehow I'm also hoping that the whole experience will make the teaching more learner friendly, like I said, right? You don't need that many tests. You don't need your test. Your assessment does not need to prove your learners how little they know, but how well they are progressing. Okay. I don't expect you to do everything from the book. Just choose 3 activities and stick to them. Choose what you feel is important for you. Okay. So all of these, and why I'll feel that the learners will actually react pretty good to this, to all these situations. I think that the major change needs to take place in the teachers' heads, and I think it is already taking place. Yeah. What doesn't kill us makes us stronger. So I generally believe that teachers will kind of after this whole period, as teachers, not only as human beings, but as teachers, will be stronger, more resilient, perhaps. So I think that once we go through this, I'm not saying I'm optimistic right now. I'm just saying that once we get through this, I look optimistically into the future.
Okay, thank you. Now, Fiona, do you agree with Carolina's opinion, or
I do? Yeah,
one?
I think we will more fully appreciate the value of some things that we perhaps take for granted or have been taking for granted for a long time, like the absolute need to develop rapport, the human side of teaching, the kind of relationship, the need for relationship building. At the moment, our students are all, whether you're teaching remote like this or you're teaching in the COVID classroom with 10 children dotted around the room, the need to create a safe space and a kind of happy space. Even with my teacher trainees now, we have what it sounds really naff. I call it the happy hello. We always go hello in the morning. And I'm always going pom-poms for you when they get something right. And I think that kind of, we now, because this is a very, if you're looking at the screen now, this is a very unnatural way to be as a group. We usually see people in profile. We can see more body language. We can see turn-taking clues that we can't see at the moment in a remote. So we have to be more willing to listen to others, wait our turn, or more willing to say, excuse me, when we want to speak. We have to encourage more. And I think because we're doing that now, I hope that will be something that passes over into the post-normal, post-modern, post-whatever classroom afterwards. the human element. Not, it doesn't need to be about the content. It needs to be about the people in this room or in the physical room, because everybody just feels really, pardon the word, but crap at the moment. We're all under a tremendous amount of anxiety and whatever. So I think there's that. And I also think there's the willingness. A lot of us have had to just get on with it when things go wrong and just kind of go, oh, well, never mind. What can I do? How can I do this differently? And I think, perhaps in the past it was like, oh no, I've got to stick to my plan. I've got to do this. The kids are rioting. I'm going to panic too. No, just kind of roll with the punches to an extent. Like today, I for some reason, I thought I'd be able to see everybody in the chat, and I could have, you just think, oh, well, I'm not going to get stressed about this. Thinking quickly, okay, email it to me afterwards. I'll just pretend I can see what you can. So I think, the capacity to improvise, the willingness to improvise, but using our knowledge, using our experience, trusting our own instincts when sort of on the hoof, when we have to, and really tapping into the fact that we are superheroes. We're probably the most talented profession there is. We're all singers and dancers and actors and carers and I don't know, what else are we? Cleaners occasionally, and organizers and managers, and sort of tapping into all that rather than just content deliverers, because we've had to accompany and motivate and stay happy on screen and smile till our flaming faces hurt. I find at Friday afternoon training, I have to apologize because I look cross because I've just lost all the energy in my face by then. But I really think that we're just going to start appreciating ourselves more as well. That's what I think.
Okay, that was very interesting answer as well, right? Thank you, Fiona. And Christina, what's your opinion about it? Where might it lead us?
So I do agree with my colleagues here that we will become more resilient to different stressful situations. So we will be more flexible, most probably. We will be able to adapt to different situations, environments more easily. And I suppose that all teachers will become braver, just they will be strong enough to do what is best for the students. So this is my idea, because nowadays, or when the quarantine started, so many different tools appeared online, so many different offers, different platforms, use this, do that. And then suddenly, for example, me, I started feeling, wow, what's going on? Which one to use? Which one is the best one? And then you calm down and you start thinking about your own audience. So if this works in one environment, with one group, so this might not work with some other group. It's not the same. So we have to be brave enough to use the tool that is of, I would say, the best quality, but that quality does not mean that it's not good for the other audience. So we will be braver, we will appreciate human communication more, I suppose, and we will appreciate the time we can spend with colleagues, having a cup of coffee or something, a glass of wine or whatever, because now it's almost impossible. So let's stay safe and healthy, yes. And we will be more technologically advanced, that's for sure.
Okay, thank you. And just like Carolina said, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger, right? I think that's the main idea of what you have just said, all of you, right? And we still have some few minutes, actually only 2 minutes. So I think the last question would be very, very simple, right? The one that could summarize our online conference, Macmillan conference, right? what would you like to wish, or maybe would you like to wish something to our teachers in Lithuania, or teachers in general in the whole world? Does not matter.
Shall I'm supposed to start, yeah? This is actually the most...
If it's fine, we can start with another person if you want.
One wish, really? You know, I don't want to sound trivial, but the first thing that comes to your mind, let this be over as soon as possible. That's the wish for all of us.
Yeah, well-being.
And yeah, and learn to take care of yourself. I would say that this is learn how to develop the art of self-care and well-being. This is most probably what I would add to it. That's what I wish everyone.
Okay, thanks. Fiona or Christina?
I've got 2 wishes. Can I make 2 wishes?
Yeah, of course.
Wish number 1, I wish to actually see Lithuania and see Vilnius, because last time I went, I had an accident about half an hour after I arrived. I had to sit in my hotel room and then be in a conference room, and that was it. So, and this time I can't see anybody either. That's my wish number 1 in the future, is actually see you, meet you, and see your country. And wish number 2 is backing up what Carolina said. Yeah, I wish you well-being, knowing when to disconnect all the screens and all the devices and pick up a book, which is what I did for half an hour of the hour between my session and this. I've sat reading a book. I had this listening to it, but reading a book. So knowing how to disconnect, look after yourself, get some sleep, you know, and just, I said before, roll with the punches a bit. We don't know how long it's going to last. So just, I wish you genuinely a happy new year.
Okay.
That's true. We are not even sure how the celebrations are going to look like.
No,
right?
but I think this year more than ever, the word happy is going to have a meaning. I think usually it's just something we say, like Merry Christmas, or
Yeah.
you know, we just go, yeah, Happy New Year, whatever that may be. But for once, I think we all genuinely mean happy, and also happier than the one before.
That's
So, yeah,
absolutely
sorry.
right. Thank you, Fiona.
Sorry.
Thank you very much. And Christina, what about you?
Okay, so I would like just to add on top of what was said. So of course, stay healthy, stay safe. Don't forget to go home, really go home from your office, close all the tabs, and yes, turn off your devices and spend the time with the loved ones, spend the time with yourself, do some yoga, think about what is inside of you, think about how strong you are, how positive you are, and everything will be fine. Just follow your dreams and they know the way. This is my wish.
Thank you a lot. Right, so I guess in other words, we have to know how to teach, we have to know all of the techniques, right? But it's very important to enjoy every single small moment in our life, right? Which is extremely important in the times like these, right? The times of the pandemic. So thank you all, Carolina, Fiona, and Christina, for wonderful content, right? Wonderful presentations, for taking your time out and being here with us today. I'm pretty sure that all of the teachers here are pleased as well, right? I hope that this isn't the last time you are here with us, right? Maybe we can think of something else in the future, right, too. And I just want to wish, to rest, right, after the conference, right, and hope to see you soon. Maybe Fiona can visit. Not only Fiona can visit Vilnius, but Carolina as well, right? Someday in the future, right, when we can do that. So thank you again, and Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye. Have good luck.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much,
You
Ignas.
too. Thank you. No problems. Thank you. Ir dar truputėlį, kol dar visi nėra, jeigu atsijungia nuo konferencijos, noriu pasakyti, kad klausimus surinksiu. Juos galite taip pat siūsti adresu elektroniniu, tai ne tik tais adresais, kuriuos nurodė lektorės, tačiau mes turime ir savo mokymų elektroninį paštą, kuris yra mokymai@šviesa.lt, šviesa.lt. mokymai@šviesa.lt. Tai šiuo paštu taip pat galite rašyti visus rūpimus klausimus ir juos pasistengsime atsakyti ir kartu su naujienlaiškiu, kuris bus siunčiamas 1-2 savaitės po konferencijos, tiesiog tuos apibendrintus atsakymus gausite. Aš šiaip tikrai noriu padėkoti visiems už laiką, lektoriams jau padėkojau, bet dėkoju ir dar kartą, taip, jeigu girdi mane, ir aišku taip pat už jūsų dėmesį bei linkiu gražios dienos viso.